Welcome back. The Ministry of Health and Wellness on Saturday, the 27th of March, received confirmation of 11 cases of COVID-19. These results are from a batch of 192 samples taken from the 25th to the 26th of March. The individuals were seen at various community respiratory clinics where they were assessed and tested for COVID-19. Confirmation was also received of the recovery of 8 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19. This brings the total number of active cases to 116. Presently, 2 of the active cases require critical care at the respiratory hospital. The new cases bring the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 4,202. As of the 26th of March, a total of 21,494 individuals have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine in St. Lucia. The COVID-19 vaccination drive continues this week at various sites in the north and south of the island. Monday saw the team administering the COVID-19 vaccine at the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds and the Philip Mosner Grounds in Viewfort. Former Sustainable Development Minister Dr. James Fletcher has expressed disappointment in the selection of countries to take part in the upcoming Leaders Summit on Climate Change to be hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden. Some 40 countries have been invited to the virtual event, which will take place from the 22nd to the 23rd of April. Dr. James Fletcher says that the biggest disappointment yet is that St. Lucia, a key player in sustainable development, was excluded from the summit.
While the upcoming Leaders Summit on Climate to be hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden is being seen as a step in the right direction, the makeup of the participating countries is raising eyebrows for former Sustainable Development Minister Dr. James Fletcher. Dr. Fletcher, who was part of the delegation at COP21, says that not enough small island states will be represented at the virtual event as they stand to lose the most from global warming. China, Canada, France, Germany, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom are just some of the countries to be represented. He says the list is dominated by developed countries.
If that is the case, that he's trying to get the countries that are the most responsible for the level of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and methane and nitrous oxide that we have in the atmosphere. He's trying to get them together so that they can make some sort of commitment leading to COP26 on reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases. Then that can explain partly why there is, a preponderance of developed countries in that list. However, I think climate change, given that climate change is something that affects smaller countries and we are the ones most disadvantaged, and we have to be making a case for why action is needed urgently, both action to reduce emissions but also to provide financing. There really is too small a number of developing countries, climate vulnerable countries in the list.
Only 2 countries within the Caribbean are on that list, Antigua and Barbuda and Jamaica. For Dr. Fletcher, the absence of St. Lucia among the mix is bothersome.
St. Lucia has always been a major world leader, at least it was in the period leading up to 2016, a world leader and an influencer on climate change. And that's quite apart from its own position within CARICOM. So any matter dealing with sustainable development, climate change, the environment, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia is the primary spokesperson for CARICOM on this. So automatically the Prime Minister of St. Lucia should have been invited. So it suggests to me that the position that St. Lucia held prior to 2016 as a world leader and a CARICOM leader on climate change and the environment, that it has either abdicated that responsibility or it has not been performing in that position. So CARICOM no longer sees St. Lucia as a country that should be promoting its efforts.
Further, Dr. Fletcher says he sees no reason why Jamaica would be at the summit and not St. Lucia.
I can understand Prime Minister Gaston Brown being invited because Prime Minister Gaston Brown currently holds the chairmanship of AOSIS, the Alliance of Small Island States. And by virtue of being the chairman of AOSIS, then you would expect that Prime Minister Gaston Brown would be the chief spokesperson on climate change for all matters pertaining to these 39 countries, and 37 of which are party to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. But why Andrew Holness is there and not Alan Shastney is baffling, because Andrew Holness is not the current chairman of CARICOM. As far as I know, the current chairman of CARICOM is Keith Rowley. So if it is that we were going on the basis of the chairman of CARICOM and the chairman of AOSIS, then you'd expect it would be the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda.
The event will feature the reconvening of the U.S.-led Major Economies Forum on Energy and Climate, which brings together 17 countries responsible for approximately 80% of global emissions and global GDP. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
The president of the St. Lucia National Principals Association says for the most part, schools are ready to receive students come April. She says most teaching and sanitizing supplies would not have been used when schools were reopened in January. Consultations are being held to ensure that adequate protocols and measures are in place to ensure a safe reopening.
As parents and students alike await the reopening of face-to-face classes, the president of the National Principals Association, Valerie St. Helen Henry, says given the steady decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases being recorded on island, there is hope that the transition back to physical classrooms are seamless.
We know that most schools, if not all schools, the last time we had face-to-face instruction, everything went well at schools in terms of being ready, in terms of the protocol. We know we had a few students who were a little disobedient in relation to the wearing of the mask. However, the issue we had was the increase in cases, which was beyond our control. I think based on what we are seeing, the statistics seems to be showing that the cases are reducing. We hope and pray to our Almighty Father that it continues, and we hope to receive our students in the new term. We want everybody has to work together, including the parents who need to be aware of the protocols that need to be followed, and there should not be a problem.
She says the association stands fully ready for the reopening of schools as the virtual platforms saw various challenges.
Because we know that we've been struggling with the online instruction. I mean, we have improved over the past few months. Some students have gotten access to devices and MiFi device from the Ministry of Education. However, we know the disadvantage of online instruction. And if we are able to work together in ensuring that schools are ready and to receive the students back face to face, we do appreciate that and we embrace that. However, we are presently, all stakeholders are presently in discussion, reviewing what are some of the weaknesses so that we can strengthen on them.
She explained that schools are well stocked to receive students, given that many of the supplies provided for the last academic term were not used.
The physical structure is there, the resources were already provided. We will hope to get some more resources in terms of hand sanitizing and this kind of the items that we need for keeping the school clean and disinfecting the schools and so on. However, we have resources because remember we did not complete the full, it was just about January. So we do have resources. We just have to do our inventory, and to respond accordingly, we will have to communicate with our supervisors to give them a list of what we need, what we have, what we need, and to take it from there.
She says it is understandable that some teachers have expressed anxiety about returning to the physical school plant, but she is optimistic that things will progress smoothly. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Janice Gonzalez.
The Vice President of the St. Lucia National Students' Council has indicated that students are experiencing mass amounts of fatigue and continue to deal with inadequacies in the education sector. He says the effort by the Ministry of Education to provide e-learning devices to students has turned into a bit of a fiasco due to issues of incompatibility. Genevieve Gonzague tells us more.
The Vice President of the St. Lucia National Students' Council, Alan Plant, says the council continues to register many complaints from students about the e-devices that were distributed by the Ministry of Education to assist students with online learning. He says the e-books do not serve as a replacement for a tablet or computer, to the dismay of many students.
They were saying that the e-books, I don't think there was proper communication as to what the e-books would have done for the students. So what the students said that, you know, that with having the ebooks, they thought that they could have accessed the Google Classroom and the different apps to do the communication with their teachers in the live classes, etc. But then they got to find out that the ebooks is something similar to a Kindle. Now, you know, when you hear the name now, it comes to mind. You know, an ebook, it's an electronic book to read, etc. on the device. Now, I'm not sure because I haven't been at any last meeting lately where they actually brought that issue up. I'm not sure if the ebooks were fully explained as to what type of books they are using. But what was brought up by our students when we frequently meet them, they say that they're ready for the ebooks was something to help them to do live classes.
He says while teachers need to be given their accolades, many students say they find themselves in a darker abyss. He says students are suffering from COVID fatigue and the effects on their educational journey is detrimental.
We still have the socio-economic problems of some students where their parents can't pay for Wi-Fi, or they still don't have a proper device because the device that a laptop would give you, the work that a laptop would give you, a tablet can't give it to you. So, you know, we still have those problems. I think this was really the problem that was brought up by our students in that regard.
Plant says there is some measure of relief by senior students about to sit exams.
CXC did make a recommendation to students and to the Ministry of Education if they would like to, if they don't feel fit, if they don't like to do the exam this year, they can do it next year. But you would have to let the ministry know before a certain period of time and then there was a deferment in the exams actually. They deferred it to June. Exams start in May, or orals start in April, exams start in May, June, they end in May, June, but exams really start June, July. It ends in July. So there was a deferment. They gave two options of deferments for thing, but I just think that in the sense that where the fatigue comes in is that students were in and out of school.
Students are expected to return to their physical classrooms after the Easter break. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Wanda.
Stay with us. There's more news coming up after the break.